Hey guys, my name is Dario, and I'm a final year student enrolled in a double degree between Bocconi University and Peking University called Future Leaders in Business Administration and International Economics. And today I'm going to quickly cover my experience in taking the GRE and coming from my initial GMAT prep. So to begin with, I've always liked math quite a lot, but I'm definitely not a genius in math. And also, I've always struggled quite a bit with the verbal part, especially because I'm not a native speaker. And because of that, I think I was also a bit more disadvantaged um, with the verbal part of the both tests of the GMAT and GRE. But with the help of Target Test Prep, I maximized both these quant and verbal aspects. So I have to be honest, at the beginning, most people like that I knew never actually did the GRE exam and did the GMAT. And that's why I initially started with the goal of doing the GMAT, because it's generally a more popular exam for business-related academic paths, which are MBAs or masters. I actually, like, the first thing that I do before even studying was to ask a bunch of friends what resources did they use for their preparation for the GMAT exam. And there were people that got 98, 97, 99 percentiles scores. So I really trusted them a lot. And they all mentioned among the top resources or even the best resources that they used Target Test Prep. And that's why I decided to also give it a shot. I did my first five-day trial, which, by the way, I think you can all do at any time. And I really found myself really comfortable with the way Target Test Prep works. So after I did my subscription for 6 months, it was basically March, now it's November. So I started like very early because I knew that it was going to be a very tough semester for me. And I also wanted to do other stuff, travel, etc. And because of that, I just use some afternoons every week, at least one afternoon every week, to just go for like 1 or 2 hours through every possible topic of the math section, especially, and also for the verbal section. Over like I think 4 months, I complete everything because as I said, took a very slow approach. From June, I actually started to grind a lot, just the exercises, because I covered everything from the learning phase. From these, you can understand one thing, which is basically that the Target Test Prep works and wants to be structured in a way that they first want to teach you everything from scratch, like as you never like saw any topic, even if you probably saw a lot of math things, and then you do the exercises for the specific topics that you learned. And generally, the schedule of TDP is to make you do both the learning phase and then the exercises for every part of your preparation. And what I did was kind of different because I first wanted to have an understanding of everything and then do the exercises just at the very end, because I knew that I was going to forget things, because I had a very large time frame of preparation. I knew that I was going to forget all the formulas, I was going to forget all the stuff. And I started doing all the practice tests for each chapter individually of both the verbal and the quant from June. And I have to say at the beginning, the math, since I'm someone that likes math, was not bad for me, at least. But the hard questions were definitely something that I had to like note down because they all had some traps. One very cool thing about the TTP is that they have sort of goal of percentage of questions that you need to get correct before even going on in your practice journey, which depends based on your target score. So I knew that maybe for some tests I was scoring below 70%, I remember, or 60 or 70% for the quant, which was not good, especially for the score that I had in mind, which was of course a very high score, because everyone I think puts a very high score as a goal at the beginning. And before even going on, I was always making sure that I was re-going through those types of questions again and making them a very mechanic thing in my mind so that I could do it well the next time. And that's something that you really, really, really need to do in your preparation, in the sense of not going on until you really feel like you have mastered that specific topic. And so I did that for everything, basically, after I covered the learning phase, as I said. And I finished all the exercises by the end of July. Um, so at that stage, I felt pretty confident with taking a simulation, and my simulation for the GMAT was extremely bad. not because of some concepts that I didn't know that I saw there, but because of first the way I manage time, and second the way the exam works for the GMAT. For the first thing, I tend to have an approach of really trying to solve a question or going on. But since for the GMAT I cannot go back to the question, I have to give an answer in that moment, and it has to be my final answer, and that made me very anxious. And they made me want to like double or triple checks everything, and I came like at the end of each session with like 2/3 of the exam done, and then I had like zero time to solve the rest. And basically I just had to randomly guess most of the other things, which basically destroyed my score in the end. The second thing that I like found a bit stressful about the GMAT, for me especially, was the adaptive nature of the exam, because it's still adaptive in the case of the GRE, but it's section adaptive. And the fact that for the GMAT, I always had in the back of my mind the thought of like, and the reflection on whether the question I was getting was like more raw, more like hard or less hard. It was something that was kind of mitigating a bit my performance, and it's something that I felt could not go away very easily, especially in my case, because I'm a person that like kind of gets anxious for this stuff a lot. And I wanted to try a different methodology of exam. I got some information about the GRE, and I decided to try a GRE mock exam. And to my surprise, I already got a pretty good score of 320 in the first simulation of the GRE, with like very limited prep on the concepts of geometry that I didn't learn yet at the time, and my previous prep with Target Test Prep, and no preparation on the words. So I think for that, honestly, I was pretty lucky in some of the questions that I got. I really liked the way the GRE exam worked, and because of that, I decided to just grind the GRE. I asked a girl that got a very high score and that got into HBS, and she also recommended again the TTP, and I knew of the quality of it, and I knew that I didn't need much stuff except from the words and the geometry part, which I didn't cover for my GMAT, which doesn't have like geometry, is not analytical geometry. So I decided to give it a shot again and do I think 2 or 3 months subscription to the TTP for the GRE, and I really found it very comprehensive again, because it had very common and repeating words that I didn't know I needed to know, and they were collected all in flashcards that I could revise afterwards. And for the geometry, it was again, as the previous part of the TTP course, extremely comprehensive, and it made me feel like especially also while doing all the exercises and official exercises, like I was doing everything that I could have possibly done and covered during the learning phase. So I did. So I learned all the topics. I did all the exercise and the practice tests for that specific topic, and then I did some shuffle tests for everything, until I became very good and accurate for all the math sections. One thing that I did outside Target Test Prep, just to be completely clear and honest, was to use the PDF version of the official GRE book just for the fill in the blanks part, because I was not super sure of what were the actual words that could have been tested. And I realized that actually most of the words were actually the TTP words. And for any new one that I was seeing, I was just putting them in my own set of flashcards that I revised constantly to like have all the words ready in my mind. Only at that stage, I started to do simulations, official simulations, and they were going pretty well. Honestly, I was always scoring above 320 for sure, and a couple of times I scored also above 330. And this leads me to the exam day. Do a recap so far. I started with the GMAT, did a bad GMAT, preferred the GRE methodology, studied the topics that I didn't know yet from my previous GMAT preparation, did the simulations only after that, as the TTP course suggests, and registered for the GRE in the middle of October. With all that in mind, all this like very, very, I think, rigorous preparation, my first GRE was completely because it was not completely bad, but it was not as good as my preparation could have brought me to, because I was very unlucky to get food poisoning the day before my exam, and I slept very little, and I got to the exam room very anxious. I was basically panicking throughout the whole exam. And it's basically one of the things that also TDP suggests not to do. Like you have to do the exam whenever you have the best possible conditions to do it. That was definitely a good learning for me because it tells you, it tells me, and I hope it tells you as well, that it's not just about your preparation and how many questions you have solved and how good you are, but also how the overall conditions and the overall environment and how good you feel both physically and psychologically really, really impacts your score. Um, so because of that, I was really mad. I was really anxious. I was really frustrated, and I had to do the exam again, of course, because we had high expectations, especially based on my previous simulations. And after 3 weeks, I did the exam again. I didn't practice much, honestly. The preparation I would say was basically the same one as the one I had on the 3 weeks before. And the second time I did it, like I was completely like healthy. Luckily, I didn't sleep too much, but that time I just knew that it was just another trial. It was nothing crazy. It was not the GRE. And with that mentality in mind, which I think is very healthy, to know that it's not the end of the world if you do it well or if you it up. Like it's not gonna determine who you are and how successful you are in the future, and it's not the last time you can do the GRE ever, because you have a bunch. You basically have unlimited attempts in your lifetime, and you have attempts every year. So it's a lot of attempts, and it's just another trial. And as I learned from my first experience, there's a lot of things that can go wrong during your first exam, and of course you want to minimize it, but anything can happen, and it's fine. It's just how life is, and just take it easy, and it's gonna go well at some point, especially if you worked to a point that you deserve to get a good score in the GRE. So that time I was like, it was actually the best conditions possible because I didn't have any anxiety. I was determined to do the exam well because I was just like, F it, let's do it and let's see how it goes. I also found questions that I was feeling comfortable with and that I felt more strong with, that facilitated my achievement of a good score. And with that, I achieved a 170 in my quant section and a 166 in my verbal section, which are far more than what I expected because like it's very on the very high end of what I was achieving in my simulations and also in my TTP made kind of short exams. And I was really shocked when I saw the score, and I hope it will be a reaction, and you will also have like that kind of happiness and like being in a state of complete like pride and happiness for like all the work you dedicated for it and the result you achieved based on that work. So to just wrap up on the tips that I have before I end the video. First and foremost, as a step zero, get the Target Test Prep course, because I also, once I like was doing the GRE, yet was trying to do other things, but I realized how they were slightly easier questions, and I already knew most of them. Like there was no need of like going to any other platform, especially also when I did the official exercises. I did a couple and they were pretty much the same, and they were always easier than what I was finding in the TTP. Step one is to learn everything, and you can decide basically whether you want to learn everything first and then practice, or or learn and practice and master every topic before going on, which is the approach of like the official approach of Target Test Prep, which in my opinion, if you have a lot of time, does is not the best one, because you will forget a lot of stuff that you learn throughout the way, and it's better to maybe like have a lot of exercises on every topic at the end. And then step three is the with Target Test Prep, there's a very cool function of creating your own exercises. Basically, you can create as many questions as you want in terms of numbers and in terms of within how much time you want to be able to solve those questions. And I would say before, for step zero, step one, and step two, don't really bother too much about the time, but start bothering about the time in step three, which is when you create these kind of exercises, because time is one of the things that can you up a bit in the exam if you don't know how to manage time well. I basically simulated every time the actual exam, number of questions, and timing. Initially, I had a bit more honesty, but then I reduced it to the official time, and then I also tried to go even a bit below the timing that I had in the exam to test myself even more. And I basically developed a good timing strategy. For instance, I'm not gonna tell you the number specifically because you would probably like it's a very common strategy that everyone has. So to give you an example, for the first section of the quant was to be at minute at 14 minutes missing from the initial 21 when I was at question 5, then at question 9 to be with 7 minutes missing, and then finishing with like 2 or 3 minutes missing, and then checking everything and then finishing the time. And for the verbal, I tried to do first all the fill in the blanks, and then have a certain amount of time left depending on what section I was doing for all the reading comprehension part. And that's something that worked really well for me managing time. And just at the very end, after step 3, I did the official simulations of the exam. And that's really important to do it at the end, because you don't want to waste them. They're limited, and like if you redo them, like you're gonna see the questions again. Like it's adaptive, yeah, but still you will see a lot of questions again, and it's not gonna be representative of the actual exam. And after those, I was noting down my mistakes. I had a mistake notebooks with everything that I was weak on in terms of the mistakes that I made, and I was repeating those. And I was doing basically again shuffle questions from specific areas in the same format of the exam in terms of timing per question. At the end, for the last 2 days, I was basically not practicing a lot because I wanted to just be in the mindset that I told you, so being just like a fuck it mindset, and let's just do it, and let's do it well, like as best as I can, but let's not make it a big deal because you can always do it again. And for me as an anxious person, it works really well. So like step 5 is to have this kind of approach and understanding that it's not the end of the world if it goes wrong, because you can do it again. And a lot of people that did well actually it up the first time, or the first 2 times, or the first 3 times. So don't really worry about that. So with these 5 steps in mind, that's everything that I did. To conclude with a final personal like advice, I just want to say that I really hate multiple choice tests. I've always been bad. All the times that I was in my academic career, or also in my professional career, it was basically by these kinds of assessment with multiple choice. So I was feeling, especially at the beginning, like I would never do this kind of exam well, because it takes a lot of time, and I thought that I didn't have enough time. But I did this thing while preparing for exams, while doing an internship, while doing a lot of other stuff and job applications, and it went well. So if it went well for me, and I'm not a genius, I'm just a person that works hard, honestly, it will go well for everyone. And just remember that this process is frustrating process, especially for the people that are ambitious and they want to get results and want to also see the results in terms of numbers and scores that they achieve. Because you're not gonna start the GRE prep or the GMAT prep and you're gonna get and like getting the score that you want. You're gonna get probably even 200 points less in the GMAT, or a lot of points less for the GRE. It's completely normal. Don't think that there is a cap of what you can achieve. It's just about practice, and understanding how the exam goes, and understanding how to manage your expectations, your anxiety in the exam. And for that too, I am a very anxious person, but I found my way of understanding how to manage the anxiety and creating my psychological state that was optimal to do in the exam well. Please keep in mind that you don't have to be smart as to do the GRE or the GMAT well. It's just about being consistent. And if you are like me, not super smart, like a person that can do everything in 1 second and like understand everything immediately, just keep in mind that it's gonna take more time, but it's not gonna be a barrier for you not being able to do the exam well. So with this said, I wish you really all the best. I know you're gonna do very well if you do the Target Test Prep subscription, and I really hope that you get your dream score by the time you have to submit your applications. For any questions or advice, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Dario Sanchez Rivetti. And again, good luck and see you soon.